Hello and welcome to the virtual meeting of the El Paso Cactus and Rock Club. Sadly, due to this pandemic, we haven't been meeting lately, and I missed that a lot. That was one of the many fun things I enjoy about El Paso. I was scheduled to talk in August, but our meeting was canceled, so I thought it'd be nice to have sort of a virtual meeting with all the trappings. Of course, the most important thing is missing, and which is all of you guys out there, but we will try to make a virtual meeting and soldier on until we can all be together again there at the old garden center in El Paso. So you may be saying, Rob, what part of El Paso are you in? It looks a little different there. I'm on the very eastern part of well, actually past the eastern. Go to the eastern part of El Paso and keep going. Keep going about 2,000 miles, and you might end up in Buffalo, New York. Once again, I'm in a border town. Canada's right over there, but they won't let us in. Can't really blame them. And I'm up here fixing up a house. I would much rather be in El Paso, and I hope to return someday. But I'm up here for now, and my well-traveled cacti have come with me. So the nice thing about having a virtual meeting is I can still talk to you and give you my presentation, my scintillating presentation on Astrophytum raising cacti from seed. I apologize for the wind. This is the best weather you can hope for in Buffalo. At least it's not snowing right now. Let me quickly show you my cactus collection. Give you an overview. It won't take long. There, we're pretty much done. I don't know if you can see all the yogurt cups in front. I have a lot of seedlings and a few old timers. Each of those cactus has a story behind it. And we'll be taking a look at them a little closer. So let's have the whole virtual meeting. Everyone's there talking, and Paul calls everyone to order and smoothly and calmly goes through the Robert's Rules of Order. Maybe has a comment about scorpions or so. And then the ad comes up, gives his treasury report. Ad gives a treasury report, and we all know Ad is the heart and soul. We just like to hide behind the treasury position. And maybe we move on to Jim Hastings talking about upcoming field trips and mentioning something about sweat allergies and that standard joke he makes. And Ellen introduces new members, and away we go with the talk. So today I'll be talking about Astrophytums, mainly Astrophytomyostigma, also known as the Bishop's Cactus, and Astrophytum Esterias, also known as the sea urchin cactus or sand dollar cactus. And we'll be talking more in general about the cactus species. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Let's get on with it right now. I'll go inside where it's not so noisy. Hi everybody, welcome back inside. Before I get to the actual talk, I had a few show and tell things I wanted to show. The first off is these books. They're pretty small. I don't know if some of you remember these. They were popular when I was a kid, and it's sort of one of the things that got me into cacti and plants. These are golden guides, and they have golden guides to everything. They have golden guides to rocks. There was a nice one for fossils. I have a whole bunch over there. Here's one for orchids. Whoops. One for orchids. It's really good. Relative sent me the German version. Very nice. One for exotic plants, just plants in general. These were great, and I try to impress upon my daughters that, when I was a kid, we didn't have internet and we didn't even have bookstores. We had to hope that they got some books in at the stationery store. So these books had a great big impression on me. And then if you remember one of these and are interested, I have an extra one of these. And for today's talk, we're going to be focusing on these guys. Astrophytums. That should be able to focus. We'll get back to this because they used to be called Echinocactus. Now, some of you may not. I can hear Ellen wanting us to use the common names of things, and I can understand that, especially for these, because they have been moved around. They used to be an Echinocactus. They got put in Echinocactus when this book was made, and then they came back out. So, but the nice thing about scientific names, it tells you what they're related to. They're related to other Echinocactus like Horizontalonias, which of course you know is very common in El Paso area, and Grusonii, you know, the golden barrel cactus. So those are two relatives of these, and I'll come back to this in a little bit. But I wanted to show you these golden guys. I think they're just wonderful, and they're sort of very nostalgic for me. Okay, also over here, I have two Eriocarpus fissuratus. These may look familiar to some of you. I got these from Peter Best when I visited his collection and gave him a few things. He more than doubled. He gave me off these wonderful things. This one is enormous. I'm sure it's older than I am. It's weird to have a cactus older than I am, and I almost gave it back to him when I left El Paso because I was worried it was going to die up here. But it's done pretty well. It's grown mainly in gravel. I'm worried about it getting too wet. But it seems to be doing well, and nicely, this year they both flowered at the same time. I will try to put up a picture of them both flowering at the same time. So I was able to outcross the flowers. And when you outcross something, you get much more genetically variable plants. Same reason you don't like to interbreed with close relatives. Because you get much genetically diverse plants. So hopefully I get some nice seeds out of that. I have not had luck with Eriocarpus seeds. Really, I have no problem keeping them alive. It's just squirrels will come and pull them out. I had some nice plants in Florida, and then blue jays came and stole them. I don't know where they went. But such are the trials of growing cacti. Also from Peter Best, I got some seed of his from Peniocerius greggii, the Queen of the Night cactus, which grows in Mexico almost up to El Paso. I was hoping to find it in El Paso. I still have yet to find it, but I think I can find it. Growing wild. And here's a nice plant of it. This is not even a year old, so it's doing well. I had a whole bunch of these, but I lost a few, again, to pots being knocked over and things. And the last one I want to show you is someone I hope everyone has, which is a great cactus to have, the peanut cactus. This one I actually got from a member of our club, Trudy. She gave me a nice tour of her cactus collection, and she gave me a tiny piece of peanut cactus, also known as Chanasterius sylvestri, but I think it's been moved back into Echinopsis, so it's Echinopsis Chanasterius now. But it's related to the Easter cactus, Echinopsis. Has wonderful red flowers. Everyone should have this. This is amazing because less than a year ago, this was just one little piece, and now it's grown into this gigantic clump. Hopefully in the spring that will have nice flowers. So I wanted to have a nice cactus club related tour there. So that's it for those. And then we'll get to my favorites and the topic of today's talk. These are Astrophytum myriostigma. I've had these fine fellows for quite a while. And again, they're also known as Bishop's Cap cactus. And the scientific name myriostigma means many spots. They sort of had a whitish cast, and if you look closely, you can see there are many tiny white spots. I was afraid I lost these on the trip up here because I left them on the back windowsill with the windows closed, and they sort of got this reddish area out here. So I think they got hurt by the trip, but they seem to be doing well. This would take a long time to die. This is a typical Astrophytomyostigma. It has 5 ribs. Oddly, the ribs seem to be very specific to the breed. I mean, to the seedling. This one has 4 ribs. If you cross a 4 ribs one with a 4 ribs one, you will get often just 4 ribs or more 4 ribbed ones. This one is variety nudum. It does not have any spots. Hopefully that'll start to focus soon. It doesn't have any spots. It has the typical 5 ribs. It has a bud that sort of gave up on the top there. Okay. So I have a little slideshow I want to show you. I want to show you those right off the bat. So let's get on to the slideshow. Okay. So let's talk about these 2 plants. Now, maybe you're the kind of person who loves all kinds of cacti equally, cacti and plants equally. Or maybe you're a bit more like me who starts to focus on a particular group or a particular kind. I like to say I'm a sort of a plant snob. I pick particular groups and I'm not really interested in the other ones. For example, in cacti, I really like asterias, the hedgehog cacti, which El Paso's like spectacular spot for them. And I like lobivias and rubudias and gymnocalycians and Eriocarpus. But the one I love, if I was stuck on a desert island and I could only bring 1 cacti, or 1 or 2 species of cacti, it would be these 2, Astrophytums. I just love Astrophytums. I could just grow Astrophytums. And I want to get you excited about Astrophytums too. The 2 that I like, there's 4 or 5, depending on how you see it. The 2 I'm going to be talking about today are Astrophytomyostigma and Astrophytum Esterias. I can hear Ellen complaining already about using scientific names. And again, these have moved around in different genera, so scientific names can sometimes not be that stable. And if you want to talk to any sort of biodiversity person, get them started on complaining about moving the scientific names around. Anyway, yeah, Bishop's cap cactus is a really great common name for this one, and I mean, it looks like a bishop's cap, the mitre cap, so it's a great name. And this certainly does look like a sea urchin down here. The scientific names, however, tell you that these 2 are related and what else they're related to. If you ever go to Peter Best's cactus amusement park, he has there. There's the Astrophytum Capricorny, which is a neat one. He has 2 gigantic ones of those. Be sure and take a look at those. Capricorny means like goat horn or something. Astrophytum means astro is a star and phytum is plant. So these are star plants. Myriostigma means myriad spots. So it has many spots. It has little white dots. Astrophytum Esterias means star again, so it's really just starry plant, starry in Greek and Latin. And it's also called the sea urchin sand dollar cactus. I spent a while looking for a good map on where these are found. Sea urchin cacti do range up into Texas. Here you can see El Paso going all the way down. What is that, like Brownsville down here, and Big Bend's way up here. They do come over the border here, but they also found down here in Mexico. I know Ad has found some of these, and we're going to look at some pictures he's found of these in the wild. Myriostigma does not come into the U.S. It stays well down farther into Mexico. I did want to show you where these maps come from, because there's 2 great websites. If you're interested in where plants live, oops. There's 2 websites. One's called swbiodiversity.org, and This is where the one map came from for myriostigma. They generate maps. They don't do it for everything. Actually, Astrophytum Esterias doesn't have a map generated. SW Biodiversity is a great site. You can search for a plant by its scientific name, and it gives you the map and a lot about it and how to identify it. The other one, of course, you know, is iNaturalist. And I have sort of a love-hate relationship with iNaturalist, but it's very good for showing maps of where things are. It's really great for plants. It's not so great for ants and beetles. But here's El Paso, and you can see where it came up here. And these are where people actually found them. And I'm sure some of these are ads dots here. Well, I'll look later. So, yeah, iNaturalist and this swbiodiversity.org are really great websites for that. So this is my one of my big three myriostigmas, and there's a nice flower on it. The flowers on these are just yellow, or the typical type is just yellow. I know the sea urchin has red on them sometimes, and maybe these and we'll talk later about varieties and things in a bit. But my big three myriostigma have yellow flowers, and we're going to be talking a bit about seed, and mainly just seed for Astrophytums. Astrophytums can't self-pollinate, or the ones I have, the typical ones can't self-pollinate. So you can't take pollen here and put it on the stigma and hope to get seeds. I had 3, and this year I had 2 flowering at the same time. They would always like flower, and then the flower would go away, and the next week the other one would flower. So I could never get seed, but I did get seed this year, so that's pretty exciting. Here is myriostigma in the wild. This is a one of Ad Koenig's photos, and here it is nestled among some other interesting plant. You can see they vary in the wild on the amount of dots they have, amounts of little white speckles they have. Here's another one. Here's another one. It's kind of neat seeing them growing in among other plants. And those are myriostigma, found only in Mexico, and these are Astrophytum Esterias. And you can see how compressed this is into the ground. And something looks like a pencil cholla growing here. Love to call it. Some neat little bee inside the flower here. You can see there's a little bit of red on these flowers on the inside. That red is more pronounced on some specimens. Alright, this one is very flush with the ground. That's very neat. Again, these are all ads photos. And here's a really nice perspective shot. Getting a little cover from this tree. And you can see it's very well, it's almost, most of the plant is underground. It's sort of a big ball. And so let's see. So one of the things I did want to mention is, why would you grow cacti from seed? I can hear Peter Best saying he's not going to live long enough to see anything interesting come from seed. That's not true. It may be true for really slow growing things like Eriocarpus. But for things like this, I'll show you what they look like in less than a year old. The other thing is, these rarely branch. So whereas an Opuntia or a hedgehog cactus, you can divide it very easily. These don't branch, so you can't really divide them, so we look towards seeds. Here's another one with maybe Escobaria or Coryphantha, I don't know what that is. But you can see how it grows flush with the ground. when you grow it in culture, it grows off like a big ping pong ball, and it doesn't look like that. So I know a lot of purists are interested only in what they look like in the wild, which is cool. I have a botanist friend who will not even. He's a little. He's one of those guys who starts talking and he doesn't notice that you've lost interest, and he just keeps talking and talking. Hopefully, I'm not that kind, but he just will not engage you in any kind of artificial selection plants or what they look like outside of the wild. So he would love these pictures. And here's a gigantic one. This is not it. This is, I think, is Ed's hand. But here's a gigantic Astrophytum. It's nice to see that they are still out there in the wild. Okay, so that's not the end of the story for Astrophytum. It's not just some neat plant found out in the wild. And maybe purists are only interested in what's found in the wild, but I'm also interested in unnatural selection. And amazingly, this group of plants was taken up by Japanese people, and they did a phenomenal job selecting various varieties so that you got a huge array of different kinds of plants. This is just a really small showing. You know, the typical flower, this one here, typically this has a few dots. We'll go back up. You can see that there's a few areoles here and the speckles here. There's not a huge amount of variety in the wild. But here they've selected for interesting traits, and some of these have so many spots on it, it's pretty amazing. And this one has almost none. This is, I believe, is a myriostigma, and it's just covered with white dots, and this has a different pattern. This one has like lumpy growths on it. These are just really amazing. And here's a greenhouse full of all kinds of interesting, gigantic, I guess those are asterias. Maybe myriostigma. And here's a monstrous one with flowers. Just really spectacular. The Japanese have been doing this for a long time. They imported plants. Again, no cacti grow in Japan, but they found these interesting. They imported them from Mexico, and interesting, later on they had all kinds of conservation efforts in Mexico, cooperation with Mexico to save these in the wild. But they imported a lot of them, but they also raised a lot from seed and selected them. Here the flowers, you can see, are ridiculously colored, and these narrow petals are not anything like what's in the wild. There are two videos. These first off, these Astrophytums with the extra spots are sometimes known as Kabuto Astrophytums. If we go search for Astrophytum Esterias Kabuto, I think it's Kabuto, yeah. These are the ones that have a lot of spots on them are typically called this Kabuto form. And there's just a phenomenal number of pictures. You could look at these all day, and I think I have. When we get on seeds, we'll talk more about these. Here are two videos that I linked in the, hopefully that's in the description below. I think it's a Romanian site, but they just show phenomenal variety in these plants. I mean, you can just watch, it's a 7-minute clip. There's two of them. They show nurseries with tons of babies, and it's just spectacular to watch these. So, one of the things I love most about Astrophytums, myriostigma asterias, is all this artificial selection that's produced all these interesting specimens. So I invite you to take a look at those and to try and grow some of these. the nice thing is, although plants don't travel easily from Japan, now a lot of these are grown in Thailand and somewhere else in Asia. But they do produce seed, which comes pretty true to the type. I call that fixing. And so it's easy to get seed. You can go on eBay and get seed for these interesting astrophytums from Thailand. And let me show you. Well, first let me show you this. This is one of my astrophytums. This is the nudum one. It has very few little dots. It's the myriostigma. I actually got fruit on this year, and I was very excited about that. And I also study ants, and you can see there's a bunch of ants in here. What happens is the fruit is not a typical berry like most cactus. Or, well, I hate to say berry because that has a specific botanical meaning. But it's a fruit that's pretty dry, and the top pops off, and you have like a cup here. And the cup is little seeds with little delicious parts attached to the seeds. And these are called arrows. And the ants love them. This is myriostigma growing in Buffalo, New York. The ants that live in Buffalo are usually very different from the ones in El Paso. But these ants here, I have a nice video of this. I don't know if you can see them walking around the edge here. I collected a few of these ants. Ants you can't identify really by just looking at them. Let me loop this. But I found out these are Printalopses and Paris, the winter ant. And it's one of the few ants that's found pretty much all over the United States. You can find these in Buffalo. You can find them in El Paso. It's very interesting. They nest very deep in the ground. And they are active at cooler temperatures than most ants are. Like they're active at 50 degrees and 40 degrees. But they love these seeds. You can see them dragging around the arrows. I think they may cut the arrows off. The plant sort of evolved the arrows so that the ants would grab the juicy part and carry the seed away. And that way it would disperse the seeds so they would find a new place to grow. The ants in El Paso are known for having spectacular seed predators. Pogonomyrmex, the harvester ants, collect seeds and eat seeds, but they also do a huge job dispersing it. I wonder if they would find these in El Paso. But Printalopses lives in El Paso too. So that's really neat. It's nice to have a plant that comes together. All my interests of ants and cacti come together right here. I was able to collect these seeds before the ants took them away. They usually just drop them here. You can see one down here. So I was able to get a lot of these seeds, and I haven't planted them yet. But I did plant a lot of seeds back last year, almost a year ago. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary that I got these seeds in the mail from eBay. It was like 200 or several hundred seeds. And I wanted to talk a little bit about growing cacti from seeds. It's not a fool's errand as you think it might be. Some cacti grow pretty quickly from seed. And some cacti are difficult to grow from seeds, like a puntia. It's very hard to germinate the seeds. Typically, there are some that grow a little more, may germinate right away. But Astrophytum seeds are extremely easy to germinate. They don't have to be scratched. They don't have to be soaked or anything. I just took some commercial cactus soil, which is pretty much a terrible thing to grow cacti in. I'm always very cautious because no matter what you say, you're going to contradict how someone very experienced grows cacti. I know a lot of people like to keep things very dry. They're in El Paso, and things are not susceptible to rot then. And when you're in the long haul for cacti, that's very important. But commercial cactus soil, I think everyone will agree, is a little too damp for cacti, unless you're like right in El Paso and you're going to grow it in the yard. I planted these seeds. I planted a whole bunch of them. And you can see here they are, just a few days, they've come up and turned into little green spheres. They came up spectacularly fast. And the neat thing about growing seeds is you can see them change very quickly. If you have a big cactus, if you have a big Eriocarpus, it's going to look pretty much the same from year to year, except for the flowering. If you're growing things from seed, you're going to see things change very rapidly. Here they are. So I keep them in a very uncactus-like environment. They're soaking wet, and they're in a Ziploc sealed in so they stay damp. And if they start to dry out at all, I add more water. So they're kept constantly damp, which you think is terrible for cacti. But it's okay for seeds, at least for Astrophytum seeds. Even Eriocarpus seeds, I keep completely soaking wet. I mean, there's no standing water in here, but it's always damp. And you can see these guys. This is November 4th. I must have planted them like right at the end of October. It was just a few days later. I did write on the container, but I think it sort of faded away, so I'm not sure when I planted it. But I know these are just coming up and they're just a few days old. Here's another shot of them. Aren't they just adorable? These are a mixture of asterias and myriostigma, and a lot of there may be some albino ones in here, maybe some different colored ones, some that have a very strong reddish pigment. But usually they come up white, and within a few days they turn green. You can see these are very reddish here. Red usually means things are starting to get too much light, but I think these just may be red pigmented. You can start to see, here these are 2 months old, and you can see the difference between, these are myriostigma ones. You can start to see the ribs forming on these. And these are the asterias ones. So you can start to see differences here. These are so damp you can see there's still algae growing on some of these pieces of bark. In here, I think this one you can see is completely full of algae. This is a very uncactus looking thing, and you can see these are like soaking wet. But as seedlings, they don't mind this. As seedlings, they like this. Not as adults, but seedlings don't mind. These are 2 months old. Fortunately, the camera recorded the date for these. And I put them under artificial lights for the winter. You can get really cheap artificial LED lights that are really great. And here's another month old, and you can see they're really getting, you can really tell that this one here, I hope you can see my mouse pointer. This one here is asterias. This one's pretty clearly myriostigma. You can really start to see the personality come out in some of these. Some are covered with lots of spots. Some aren't. Some are just sort of still blobs. So that's 3 months old. Here's sort of an overview of my this seedling batch. I had a bunch of Eriocarpus that did very well. I had Cachubianus and Fisheratus. They did very well. It's only later on when I brought them outside, and they just kept being knocked over. And I lost a few just to falling in the dirt. And even when I fished them out and put them back in the pot, they did not do well. So I actually lost a lot of them. I do have a Pedicactus Knowltonii, which I got from seed, oddly from, I think, Denmark. So the cactus, which grows in a very small population in Arizona, I had to go to Denmark to get seed. And I have one plant of that still coming up. So anyway, here they are. After a while, I take them out of the plastic bags, but I do water them quite a bit and keep them damp. I don't let them dry out too much. They got some odd reddish algae growing on them, but it didn't seem to bother them. Not on the actual plants, but on the soil between the plants. Alright, here this pot was starting to get a little crowded. So I got a big, I think this was a mushroom container from the store, and filled it with commercial cactus soil and moved these out into here. And here you can see all the little guys. They're just adorable at this stage. You could just be happy with these. Alright, that's at 2 months old, and here they are today. I took this photo yesterday. These are the ones you just saw out there. And you can definitely see these are big asterias here. These are the Kabuto type, which are covered with lots of dots. These are a little more typical. I do have some seeds that Ad gave me of asterias, and they're more typical. Those are coming up too. Those are really nice. And here's a nice myriostigma, a very typical one. This one's very reddish. So here they are 11 months later. So only 11 months in, you have wonderful, interesting little plants here. I'm going to have one more comparison page. So here you can see them at 2 years old. It's very interesting to try and match them up. You can see some of them died off, which happens. There's an empty spot here, so something died. Looks like they actually moved around. But you can see this one turned into that one. And really interesting things here. This myriostigma here. I will put this presentation up if you'd like to look at these photos. If you do use any of the photos for anything else, there's a lot of photos by Ad here. I'd like you to give him credit, but you're welcome to use anything of mine. Just whatever. But so these are growing. These are astrophytums, and these are astrophytums from seed. I hope you will give these a try. I stopped counting at like 200. I have 200 of these little plants. I'm going to grow them on a little more, and then I hope to bring them to a cactus meeting and give a lot of them away. Because I do want to have an empire of Astrophytum Esterias, but I'm not sure I can take care of hundreds of plants. So hopefully in the year to come, you will have one of these of your very own. And I invite you to try to grow these from seed. It's very simple. Basically just to wet some soil, put the seeds on top, seal it in a Ziploc, and keep it sealed for a week. You will have little seedlings. And then open them up. Don't give them direct sun. Give them indirect sun for a while. And then in a few months, you can go out in direct sun. These have direct sun here. These were kept under artificial lights for a long time. Of course, it's direct sun in Buffalo, which is not very sunny. Okay. Here's another photo. I took one out and put it in its own pot. This one I'm going to have to repot soon. Here's a pharaoh cactus back here from seeds from the gym down the street. And these look like they can stay in here for a while. They're not getting too crowded. So, Astrophytum Esterias, Astrophytum myriostigma, bishop's cap cactus, sea urchin cactus. I think you should give them a try. One thing I did want to say, and I think people watch these and they're like, oh, that guy must have his green thumb. He just grows all those things. I always laugh when I think of the expression green thumb, because I think, yes, you can have a green thumb, but it means the other 9 fingers are black fingers. Because although you see a lot of wonderful plants I have, mainly other people have, know that a lot of plants died so that there's those few plants. I had to go to Buffalo for a month, so I set up an automatic watering system in my apartment for these plants. And it's pretty neat. It's something you could buy. It's pretty cheap. And it waters these plants like every week. It squirts a little water into the pots. The Astrophytums stay completely dry because they don't mind sleeping all winter. But these are geranium relatives. something I was sort of obsessed with for a while. These are Pereskia. A lot of the Astrophytums you've seen were grafted. I wanted to try grafting. I tried it and it was disastrous. It didn't work. So I will have to wait another year before I can tell you how to graft things. So I'll give it a try again later. But these are Pereskia. They're cacti which look more like vines with succulent leaves. And I just wanted to show you that of these plants, these three are still alive, and these little ones in pots. These have all died on the trip. So it's a very sad thing, but I want to let you know, don't feel bad when you have plants die. If someone says you have a green thumb, there's a lot of dead plants, ghosts, sitting behind those few wonderful looking plants. So don't get discouraged if things die. I mean, don't become some plant murderer who keeps things in the dark and damp. And try your best, but things do die and bad things happen. So keep that in mind and always try different plants. You'll find plants that pick you, that grow well for you. Okay. Thank you very much. This concludes the talk. Wow, you made it to the end of the talk. I'm very impressed. I hope you've enjoyed it. I did want to mention one other thing. Our Cactus Club does have a sort of seed bank. Sort of, if you want to donate seeds or if you're interested in some seeds, let us know and we have a bunch of seeds saved up. Here are some Astrophytum myriostigma seeds. Just so we're talking about it, I'm going to put it's a little dusty in here. I'm going to put some seeds in here. I have a website where I have a list of some of the seeds. But if you're interested in any seeds, let me know or let the club know, and we will try and get you some, give you something to do in these pandemic times. And I will try to bring this to future meetings. Okay, that should conclude the meeting. Remember, Maryland has some deviled eggs. They're wonderful. What? Oh, they've all been eaten, so no more deviled eggs left. Sorry. Remember to return your name tag to the table in the back. You'd hate to take this home and end up having to keep it for months and months. Okay, that does it. I hope you had a good time. I hope to see you guys in the future. Take care. Wear a mask. Always.